Welcome to the new week. And first things first, congratulations. You survived another week. You made it through the stress, the nonsense, and the per my last email energy. And at least one moment where you considered quitting everything and opening a food truck with zero experience. Because I know I did. But here we are. It's Monday, a brand new week. And if you're listening to this, you're already doing better than most. Because instead of walking blindly into the chaos, you decided to start your week with a little perspective. Now, technically, this is your Sunday reset episode. We're just dropping it on Monday because, well, life. So everything you're about to hear happened this past week in history, March 18th through March 22nd. And what a week it was. We've got a man casually stepping out into space like it's a normal Tuesday. The biggest unsolved art heist in modern history. A book that helped push a nation toward war. And a tax so annoying it helped spark a revolution. Plus, there's a few birthdays that remind us that this week also gave us some serious heavy hitters. We're talking Albert Einstein, born March 14th, close enough that his brain is still echoing through the week. And Quincy Jones, also on March 14th, one of the most influential music producers in history. And somewhere in the cosmos, most likely still celebrating with a beautiful green-skinned Orion girl, William Shatner, March 22nd, proving that somehow, somewhere, Captain Kirk is still negotiating with aliens, or tweeting about something. So yeah, not a bad week for human achievement. And of course, we've also got another entry of what the hell, people. Because no matter how advanced we get, someone, somewhere, is still making decisions that make the rest of us nervous. So take a breath, shake off last week, and let's step into this one with a little context. This is Draven's Den. On March 18th, 1965, Soviet cosmonaut Alexei Leonov became the first human to perform a spacewalk. He floated outside his spacecraft for about 12 minutes, which doesn't sound long, until you remember he was suspended in the vacuum of space with nothing but a suit between him and, well, not existing. And then things got interesting. His suit expanded in the vacuum, making it difficult to re-enter the spacecraft. So Leonov had to release air from the suit, risking decompression, just to squeeze back inside. Early exploration was less precision engineering and more, this should work, probably. Also on March 18th, 1990, two men dressed as police officers walked inside the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston and carried out the largest art theft in modern history. They stole 13 works of art valued at over $500 million. And to this day, they've never been recovered. Which means somewhere out there, someone either has the most impressive private collection in the world or no idea what they're sitting on. On March 19, 2003, the United States supported a coalition including UK, Australia, Denmark, Poland, and Spain launched Operation Iraqi Freedom to remove Saddam Hussein from power. President George W. Bush announced the start of the military operations in a televised address at 10:16 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, targeting the Iraqi leadership to neutralize alleged weapons of mass destruction. What followed was prolonged conflict that reshaped the Middle East and had lasting global consequences. History doesn't always resolve cleanly. Sometimes it leaves questions that take decades to answer. Also on March 19, 1918, President Woodrow Wilson signed the Standard Time Act, also known as the Calder Act, into law, establishing the first federalized time zones and daylight savings time in the U.S. Enacted during World War I, the law aimed to conserve fuel and energy, and it was temporarily known as wartime. Before this, time was handled locally. Each city ran on its own solar clock, which worked fine, until trains started showing up late to places that technically didn't exist yet. So naturally, the country said, all right, everyone, same time now. Organization through necessity. The publication of Uncle Tom's Cabin on March 20th, 1852, was a watershed moment in American history, as Harriet Beecher Stowe's novel transformed the political debate over slavery into a moral emergency for millions. The novel exposed the realities of slavery to a wide audience and became one of the most influential books in American history. It shifted public opinion in the North and intensified divisions in the South. It became the best-selling novel of the 19th century and the second best-selling book of that era, surpassed only by the Bible. A reminder that words, when written at the right time, can move an entire nation. Also on March 20th, 1995, members of the Shinriko cult launched a coordinated domestic chemical terrorist attack on the Tokyo subway system during rush hour. Using sarin nerve gas, the perpetrators killed 14 people, severely injured 50, and caused temporary vision problems for nearly 1,000 others on 3 subway lines. It was a shocking act of domestic terrorism that revealed how vulnerable even modern cities can be. Not all threats are external. Sometimes they come from within. On March 21st, 1960, South African police opened fire on a crowd of black South Africans in the township of Sharpeville, killing 69 people and injuring 180 in a brutal crackdown on a peaceful protest against pass laws. Pass laws in South Africa were a strict, discriminatory, and foundational part of the system of racial separation, designed to control the movement, residence, and employment of black South Africans. They required black people to carry a pass book or reference book, often called a dumpus, at all times, limiting their presence in white urban areas and subjecting them to immediate arrest. The event, now known as the Sharpeville Massacre, became a pivotal turning point in South African history and the global struggle against institutionalized racism. 69 people were killed. Many were shot in the back while fleeing. History doesn't just record injustice, it amplifies it. While seismic activity actually began with a small earthquake on March 16, 1980, the reawakening of Mount St. Helens intensified significantly on March 21, 1980. A series of earthquakes and steam explosions signaled the reawakening of Mount St. Helens in Washington state. The day before, a substantial magnitude 4.2 earthquake on March 20th served as the first major indicator that the volcano was stirring after 123 years of dormancy. This led to the 250-foot wide crater through a summit at the ice cap. 2 months later, it would erupt catastrophically. Sometimes history gives us warnings. The question is whether anyone's listening. Intended to help support the British regiments left to defend the American colonies after the French and Indian War, Parliament passed a tax law called the Stamp Act on March 22, 1765. The act required certain types of documents to be printed on taxed paper: newspapers, legal documents, even playing cards. It was one of the first direct taxes imposed on the colonies and sparked widespread protest. Taxation without representation wasn't just a slogan. It was a breaking point. March 22nd has also been recognized as World Water Day since 1983, highlighting the importance of fresh water and advocating for sustainable management of water resources. The UN designated day raises awareness for the 2.2 billion people living without access to safe water and inspires action to achieve Sustainable Development Goal 6, water and sanitation for all by 2030, highlighting the importance of access to clean water, a basic necessity, still not universally guaranteed. History isn't just about the past. It's about what we're still trying to fix. Time once again to check in on humanity and ask the question, what the hell, people? This week's entry: a group of individuals attempted to test a self-driving car by standing directly in front of it, just to see if it would stop. Let me explain something. Technology is impressive, but using your own body as a test subject, that's a bold strategy. One that has historically produced very mixed results. Spoiler alert, the car did stop. But the real question is, why was that the plan in the first place? At some point, curiosity has to meet common sense. And unfortunately, they don't always show up at the same time. History isn't just global. It's personal. If your family has a story, military service, migration, resilience, or a moment that shaped your family's future, share it. The Family Thread series exists to preserve those stories before they disappear. Because the most meaningful history is the kind that gets passed down. Send those stories to dravensden@gmail.com. March 18th through March 22nd reminds us that history doesn't need long stretches of time to leave a mark. It just needs a few days. Humanity stepping into space. Ideas powerful enough to divide a nation. Policies that spark revolution. Warnings that precede disaster. And choices that make you question everything. History is not just a timeline. It's a mirror. And sometimes it reflects brilliance. Other times it reflects chaos. I'm Stan Miles, and that's the rest of history. Stay curious.